over that last page in the notes, and then we're gonna we're gonna go over our review.
So hold my.
So if you had your phone, go put it back. Go put it up. I don't want to see it. So I'm just going to read through the equations, and then we can go over any questions you have. So for number 1, your equation was negative x plus 1. If you wrote negative 1x plus 1, that's fine as well. 2 was 1/2 x minus 3. 3 was negative 2/5 x minus 3. 4 was x plus 4, or 1x plus 4. Do we have questions on those 4? So checking yourself is fine, but if you didn't do it and you're just writing them down, that's not going to help you for your test next class. Have this paper? No, I have. The review. So any questions on 1 through 4? If I need to go back up, just let me know. For 5, your equation was y equals negative 1/2 x plus 1. 6 was negative 4/3 x plus 1. 7 was negative 4x plus 3. And 8 was 1/2 x plus 3. So remember that, 1, you need to read the directions very, very carefully. Make sure that if it's asking for parallel, that's what you're writing. Or if it asks for perpendicular, that's what you're writing. So for these ones, because these were asking for perpendicular, the very first thing you had to do was change your slope. You could not keep moving forward to find your y-intercept until you change your slope. Do we have questions on any of these 4? Oh, that's extra file. Yeah, so after you solve this for y, that was just your equation that you're basing everything off of. You had to change your slope. Okay. Pay attention. Does everyone have the review sheet I passed out? So I know some of you may have started this already, that's fine. We're going to go over some of each section. Your test is only 2 objectives. Can you write the equations of lines? And can you write the equations of lines that are parallel and perpendicular? So you should be able to, if you do well in the first part, you're doing the same thing. There's just extra steps on the second part. Alright, so pick 2 of these from the first section, and they're badly numbered, so I'm sorry. Aiden, pick 1.
2.
Okay. So we're not going to do 6. 1 or 8. 8. Alright, so for number 2, questions like 6 and 2, you need to remember Hoy bucks. Is this a horizontal or vertical line? Vertical. So that means it has an undefined slope, which means it's an x equals. What does x equal? 4. So, but that only works for straight horizontal and straight vertical, not slants. For number 8, we need to find our slope and our y-intercept in order to make this equation. Well, let's start with our y-intercept. What is that? 4. +4. So I'm just going to write this off to the side. You don't need to, but you can. And then we need to find our slope. So I don't know if you can see another point, but we need to find another point that goes through exactly. So maybe like this one. So I put that point there because they go through the lines exactly.
For another one, right? Can you just simplify after you think of it?
So for counting, if I started at my y-intercept, I'd have to go down 3 and left 1. Well, down and left are 2 negatives, and 2 negatives make positive. So our slope is +3. What's our equation? 3x plus 4. That's it. 3? This right here. M equals 3, yeah. So anytime you're given a graph, you just need to find your slope, your y-intercept, put them together to make an equation. Pick 2 in this next section. Aiden, pick 1. 11. Okay, so then we're not going to do 15. 9. So just in case it's not clear on yours, this is -5. I think this is 0. 4/5, -1, -5, and undefined. This one's -5. 4/5.
I was just confused by that little thing.
Let's focus. What did you say? I'm going to show you how to do it, and you'll be able to do it. All right, so for these type of questions, you're given x, y, and m. That means you need to find b. So put each of these numbers in and find b. So 0 equals 4/5 times -5 plus b. And we're solving. We multiply these two together, what would that equal? -4. If we move 4 over by adding, what is b? 4. So now we can write our equation with our slope and our y-intercept. Y equals, what's our equation? 4/5 x plus 4. If you get a question like these two, and it says slope is 0 or slope is undefined, use Hoy bucks. So for 11, it says our slope is undefined. Remember that these two are your slopes, 0 and undefined. So if it's undefined, that means this is an x equals. What does x equal in this order pair? Negative 1. That's it.
You don't gotta do that. So the other one's gonna be negative.
Negative 2 y equals. If it's undefined, it's x equals. If it's zero slope, it's y equals.
Okay.
You just don't have to solve it.
You don't have to. No. You can. For 15, it would work out the same way. John? Was 0 times anything? 0. So you don't even have a middle term. It's just y equals negative 2. Alright? Let's do 2 in this section. Choose 2. 23. 20, sorry. And 17. Okay. So for these, anytime you are given 2 points, you need to find your slope and your y-intercept. This process repeats itself a lot. However, you need to remember this. Because if you mess this up, your equation is wrong. Because you use the wrong slope to find the wrong y-intercept. So your equation is wrong. So be very careful that you're doing this step right. Label them if you need it. And put those numbers in that format. So negative 5 minus 0 over 0 minus 2. What would your slope be? So if you just solve this, it'd be negative 5 over negative 2, which would simplify to just 5 over 2. So remember to simplify if you can. Take out negatives if you can. Now you can choose either one of these points and solve for b. If you have something that has 0 for x, do that one first. So I'm going to use 0, negative 5. So negative 5 equals 5 over 2 times 0 plus b. So anytime you have 0 as x, that's really your y-intercept. I put this point into your equation, y equals mx plus b. This would be 0, so negative 5 equals b. What's your equation? Y equals 5 over 2x minus 5. Yes.
But I did the other one just to get a different answer.
You should get the same time.
So I did it wrong.
I
I put the y as
was wondering, instead of doing 20, could we do 19?
19 is easier than 20, so let's do 20. I will say that when you're doing this, if you get a slope of 0 or a slope that is some number over 0, you need to know that it's either 0 or undefined. And that's going to be at x equals or y equals. So now we're doing 20. 4 minus negative 3 over 2 minus 3. I don't know why I put that in minus -3 is what? Positive 7. And then this would be -1. So what is our slope really? -7. Now we can choose either point and find b. Which point do we want to use? The second one. So 4 equals -7 times 2 plus b. So -14. And then we would add 14 to solve for b. So what is b? 18. What's our equation? -7x plus 18. So again, the first section is, can you write the equations in all of these different ways?
No, but you know those questions, right? Remember how like the horizontal and stuff? It was different concept. It was like it was a slant.
So those you'll have to do this process.
Is that on it?
You'll have to do this process.
I don't think she'd do that.
I tried that, but then it was telling me like y minus 4.
The format is weird, but it's the same thing.
Same thing.
She's
On
gonna
there,
do
it told me because I put the hint and then it told me that I put the x told me put x plus 4.
Alright, on the back. We're only going to do one of these for the first section. This one is asking you to find the slope that is parallel and that is perpendicular. So we're not writing equations, we're just finding a slope that would be parallel and perpendicular. If it's in slope-intercept form, that's fine. Go ahead, find the parallel and perpendicular slope. If it is not in slope-intercept form, you need to get it there. So for number 3, it's almost in slope-intercept form, but we need to get y by itself. So divide everything by 2. So y equals 3/2 x minus 4. If we were looking for a slope that's parallel, what would that slope be?
Oh no, parallel.
3 over 2. So remember with parallel, what do we know about the slopes and the y-intercepts?
Same slope.
Same slope. You don't need to write this. I'm just writing it again. And different y-intercepts. For perpendicular, what do we know about the slopes? They're negative reciprocal slopes, and then the y-intercept doesn't matter. So just so we know that. Just because I don't have a lot of space, I'm going to write this like this. For our parallel slope, we said that was the same, so it was 3 over 2. Remember that symbol means parallel, not an 11. For our perpendicular slope, what would that be?
Wait, that one
Negative 2 over 3. Remember, one has to be positive, one has to be negative, and then you also need to flip the fraction.
So we don't have to give a y-intercept.
No, not for this section, not for these types of questions. So make sure you're reading the directions very carefully.
So isn't the parallel just going to be the exact same thing that the question gives us?
So in this one, you're not writing the equation. You're just writing the slope.
Yeah, so
But the slope will be
gonna
the exact
same.
same. So we shouldn't be talking.
Wait, so the answer is 3 over 2. That's
Both of these are your answers. One is your parallel, one is your perpendicular.
You have to go, right?
You need to give both. Or if it asks that, just pay attention to what it's asking. For these type of questions, they're asking whether these equations are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So let's do number 7. Now, when looking at this, you can kind of tell what your slope is going to be, but it may change. So don't assume they're going to be parallel or perpendicular based on this. Make sure you solve it first. So this would be y equals negative x plus 5. And this will be y equals negative x minus 10. But if this was like x minus y, it would be changed. The slope would be changed. Are these lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Parallel. How do we know that? The slope is the same. Right, we're going to do one of these, and one of these, and one of these. These two are basically the same type of question, just one is parallel, one is perpendicular. So again, make sure you're paying attention to what it's asking. So this one is asking for parallel. We need to find the equation that is parallel to the one given. So for 15, they gave us some equation. So we need to find what would our new slope and our new line be, or slope and our new line be. Oh, if they're parallel lines, what would our slope be? Just 2. Our slope has to be the same thing. Now that we know our slope, we have an x, we have a y, we have m. We need to find b. So 2 equals 2 times 4 plus b. Solve for b. So what's our equation? Now the only difference between 15 and 17 or 19 and 20 is that these two you have to solve for y before you start this process. Same thing, just solve it for y first. So for 20, this is asking for perpendicular, a line that's perpendicular through this. So we need to solve this for y first. How would we do that? Subtract 3x to both sides. And divide everything by 5. Now this is going to be a weird case that has a decimal for y-intercept. Remember that happens sometimes. But that's not our answer. That's just our equation to help us find our new slope. We have to flip our slope. No. It would just be 5 over 3. So our new slope is now 5/3. Now we have an m, we have an x, and a y. We need to find b. So 5 equals 5/3 times 2 plus b. What's 5/3 times 2 as a fraction? 10 over 3. So I'm going to write that up here because I ran out of space. Actually, I'm going to write it down here. So you're gonna subtract this to both sides. Now, if you were doing this by hand, yes, you would need to get common denominators, make 5 a fraction, but you can use your calculator. I'm gonna do it by hand.
15.
So what is B? 5/3. What is our equation?
Y equals y-3x plus, what is it, 5?
Sometimes they're the same. So that would not be something nice to graph, but it happens.
Well, how do you use a calculator? Just 100 or 5?
I'm going to do 5 minus 10 minutes. Last one. For 23, these are asking you to find the value of A. So in order to find the value of A that is perpendicular to whatever this is, we need to solve this first for Y. So if this first equation has to be perpendicular to this one, what will this A value be? But negative. Negative 2/3. Really, it's asking you to find your new slope.
Oh, it's 2.
For that type of equation, that type of problem. Now, for the rest of class, you can finish this so that it's not homework. If you finish it before you leave today, show it to me. Your homework is then to study for your test on Friday. That means going back over these, practicing these, erasing your answers, doing them again, practicing them. Remember that you have Khan Academy due tomorrow, but I'm not checking them for lateness until we get back from break. So you have 2 weeks to do them. That also means if you need help with them or help with previous, you have tomorrow to get help or in the morning. So finish this. If you finish this and have finished Khan Academy already and feel like you need extra practice, there are extra practice sheets up here on just parallel and perpendicular lines. Some of you have this already, some of you don't. But work on this first. So do this first, then you can work on Khan Academy or this.